Hello, everyone. I'm Jesus.
And I'm Andre.
And welcome back to another episode of the Let's Go to the Movies podcast. We have another guest today. And if you want to become a guest, there's a Google form you can fill out on our respective accounts.
So, Kayla, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Kayla. I'm 19 and I'm from Orlando, Florida. I'm a film school student at a smaller film school here in Orlando called First Institute. I recommend it. Check it out. I love cinema. I love movies. I always have, and I think I always will. I've worked on a few sets, done a few different short films, music videos, stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk about Coherence today.
Yeah, exactly. Great segue into the title there. We're talking about a movie called Coherence. And in fact, this movie is going to be introducing a new type of episode that we'll be doing. Hopefully we'll be able to do it once a month, and we'll be setting up some way for the audience to decide which movies we talk about for these specific episodes. And so we're calling it our Bargain Bin Movie. So that's what the title of this episode is, as you can see. And so Bargain Bin Movies, we're just talking about movies that are low budget, that you can find different places on the internet that are just great to see and are must-watches in different ways. So the first one that we're doing is called Coherence. It's this weird sci-fi thriller type movie that just screws with your head all the time as you watch it. And that's what we'll be doing this episode. So, Kayla, what made you pick this one in particular?
Oh my gosh, this movie is just like the biggest mind bender, like hidden Easter egg movie ever. And it's like, it was such a low budget that it was just like seeing what they did with such a low budget and little like pre-production into it was really interesting. It's a great story. It's very character driven, which I feel like you don't see too much with sci-fi movies. It's always about the, sci-fi part of it, not so much the characters. So I think that's why. And it's just, again, it's like every time you watch it, there's just something new that you find. So it's one of those movies you can watch over and over again without ever getting tired of it.
Oh, for sure. And so to kind of give a very brief synopsis before we go into the ratings of the movies that we'll give or our first viewing of it, this movie is basically about a group of 8 friends who join together for a dinner party. And this dinner party happens to happen at the same night as the passing of a comet, which is called the Miller's Comet, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's Miller's Comet.
I think it is,
Comet.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. And as this comet passes, as the night progresses, weird things start to happen, and they start to realize, all 8 of them, that reality is starting to shift and bend in ways that they aren't really expecting. They're starting to deal with these weird meta-universal type problems that are messing around with them. It's very complicated to try to say broadly, but that's the general synopsis of the movie. It's very, very interesting to watch. You can find it on Amazon Prime or other places. What was the place that you found it on?
I watched it on Hulu. Yeah, it's on Hulu as well.
Okay,
yep.
Perfect. Yeah. So Prime, Hulu, 2 places to find it. Very, very great movie. Recommend watching it so that you understand what we're talking about. If you don't want to, that's fine as well.
Yeah, crazy spoilers coming up if you haven't watched it yet. Like
crazy spoilers,
yes.
Exactly.
This is a movie you have to go in like completely blind to like really enjoy it, especially your first time.
For sure. Speaking of the first time watching it, Jesus, I know this is your first time watching this movie.
Yes, it was.
What did you think of that?
I was so incredibly confused at some parts. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
But generally, I kind of liked how confusing it was. It's kind of like what's it called? What's that movie? Interstellar.
Okay.
Yeah.
In the confusing. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, with the meta sort of bits in it and stuff like that. And and like I said, it was very character driven, which I thought was pretty interesting for the sci-fi movie. I don't really see that much in some. Yeah, usually it's about like the fancy special effects, and it's about all the like all these cool like alien things or like all these robot junks and stuff like that.
Absolutely, yeah.
I feel like it was more like the sci-fi part of it was like what the characters were going through. Like,
It was like it was more in the put in the dialogue and what they were
yeah.
explaining to us what was going on.
What's crazy is this director, what's his name? James Ward Birkett, who also did Rango.
Yeah, I saw that.
That
was
just
very
so random.
weird
Like those are
other
his two
credit.
big movies, is Rango and Coherence. But yeah, he didn't tell them anything that was going to happen. Each actor got this card that had like 10 different facts about themselves and like 10 different like motives to get them through each day. This was shot in 5 days. And I mean, that's I think what just makes it so great is there was no script. He knew what he wanted to happen, but he let the actors do their own thing and like, you know, actually get into that space, which I think is another reason it was so great with such a small budget.
That is definitely true. Oh my goodness. So when did you first watch this movie though, Kayla? Like what made you find it really?
So there is this YouTuber, Pretty Much It. They do like commentary stuff for films. Their channel is great. And they did Coherence, and they only showed about like the first 15 minutes because you watch the rest through like their Patreon and stuff. But I started it, and they kind of like gave their reactions to like these big moments, but didn't actually explain what these moments were. So I was like, okay, well, I'm curious now. And then I watched it, and I was just like, the hell did I just watch? I was so confused. And then in the second time I watched it with my best friend, and just seeing her reaction to it too, I was like, okay, I need to keep like showing this to people and watching it because it's just there's so many layers to it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, for me, I've watched it twice now, and both times we're in my apartment here, like in my university town, and I've watched both times alone, so I haven't been able to share it yet with anybody. But I had no idea that Pretty Much It did a video on them. I love Pretty Much It.
Their video is really interesting, and I liked it because they didn't give away like that big moment with the box. That's kind of where they stopped it because that's that kind of starts where it starts unraveling. So I think that was just like a little teaser, and I was like, yeah, I really need to watch this.
Awesome, yeah. It just came up on like recommended on Prime, which I was like kind of reluctant to click on because Prime Video has just a torrential downpour of just awful movies all over the place. And I was so like, I was like, oh, I want to watch something good, you know? Like my one roommate's busy like talking with her boyfriend all night. The other roommates are like doing homework and stuff. Oh, what can I do? Oh, here's a random movie that came up on recommended. Is it gonna be good? I don't know. It says sci-fi, and once I started, I was like, oh, this is very low budget.
Yeah.
But then like 5 minutes in, like watching it the second time, I was like really intrigued after like the cold open of the movie, basically. Like the phone cracking.
Yeah.
Oh, just to kind of explain, like the main character M is driving to this dinner party talking to her husband, and then her phone just shatters in her hand. And watching it again for the second time, I completely forgot about that moment, and I was just instantly in it again because I was like, oh yeah, this is how weird it gets so early.
Yeah.
It's just fantastic. So before we get into any specifics though, let's give ourselves a rating for this movie individually, and I'm going to bring up the ratings for it to kind of base off of it, because what we do is critique the ratings that the big names give, like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. So IMDb gives this movie a 7.2 out of 10, and Rotten Tomatoes gives it an 88.
Really? I feel like Rotten Tomatoes is always so harsh with these like indie movies, especially. Wow.
I was like really surprised when I saw that too. So I'll just off the bat say I think that both of them, they're like decent scores, but I think it's a little bit higher.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely like breaching the 90% mark.
Oh yeah, especially with how low of a budget it had.
Yeah, like when you take into account the fact of how low budget it is to like the quality of the movie is, I'd say definitely between like 92 and 94 is where it, in my opinion, it would lie. Yeah. So what about you guys?
5 out of 5 ping pong paddles, because it's too good. I just like also just knowing everything behind it. It's just like the amount of work that the director put into it, and also just knowing from a technical standpoint, like there was no lighting, it was all just run and gun, 2 cameras. It was like a murder mystery party almost, with people recording it. Like, man, that's just insane to me.
Like, my rating probably will go up at the end of this episode for it. But Jesus, what about you?
I was gonna give it like a 80%.
Ooh, okay.
I really like the movie. It's a good movie.
Perfect. Awesome. Yeah. So, I guess to kind of just jump in, Kayla, you said you have notes, and
yes.
Surprisingly, I also have like actual notes prepared for this. I've never done that for an episode as much as I have for this one.
I think you have to with this. You just have to.
I think oh man, it's just so good. So many things I have written down here are just moments that made me laugh. And like there's specific quotes that I just think are so funny because you can definitely know it's improv, and nobody would actually write that. But it's so perfect.
Is one of those lines the one where he says, closer to the end of the movie when they're all arguing after he finds out about the affair from like 10 years ago, where he says, it's something along the lines of like, you know, if there's a million different realities, I slept with your wife in every single one of them. That one, the director, he had some lines he wanted in there, and that was one of them, and I'm so glad it was in there.
That is one of my favorite lines from the movie, and I didn't write that down because it's like too good.
It's too good.
Like the ones that I have are just like irritating to me almost, but still very funny. Like, specifically, I guess it was Mike's character. He was the actor, right?
Mike, yes, he was in Criminal Minds. He was Penelope's boyfriend. In Criminal Minds, that's what he's from. Yeah, he's like one of the only actors in that film that I feel like have done some bigger things. But yeah, he was worked for the whatever it's called in Criminal Minds.
Yeah, but like Mike though, this character, he's like the one who has like the most turmoil almost with his character, because like he's like dealing with alcoholism and scared that this like alternate reality version of himself is out to kill him, so he wants to kill his alternate reality. But it's just very messed up. But he's like an actor, and so he just comes out with these just like straight out of the park lines that are just so great. And so at one point, like a character says, do you guys have a landline? And then out of nowhere, off screen, you just hear Mike say, "Nah, we're wireless, baby." And that made me laugh so hard because it just doesn't fit the scenario.
No, not at all.
Or like out of nowhere, he just says, "What did we do before cell phones?" and then like another moment. I'm just gonna rattle off a few quotes that I just love, then we can move on to something more interesting. But somebody, I think it was the character Hugh, who is almost, I guess, the brains in this movie, kind of, because his brother is some type of quantum physicist. So he asks, "Do you know Schrodinger's cat?" And then Mike just says, "I'm allergic," and you just never see him when he says it. And that is just so well done, because you really understand this character is like there to kind of be like the nuisance. He's kind of like the Barney Stinson of the group, almost, or like the Joey Tribbiani or something like that. And it's just so good. So enough about the quotes though. I have more, but I don't want to keep on focusing on that. Let's just go in with a random topic. Let's see. What did you think, Kayla, about how they characterized Lori from like before she comes in?
Lori, so she is I always forget their names. Sorry,
Lori.
Lori is the one who everyone's like, she's kind of promiscuous, but she was dating M's boyfriend or husband before. I think her character was like very interesting, and I think she went in there with like a total agenda. But the other interesting thing is, by that point in the movie where she shares that kiss with M's boyfriend, you kind of wonder, is that even that specific reality's Lori? And one thing, I was listening to an interview from the director, James Ward, and he was saying how starting right in the beginning of the movie where her phone cracks, that's when everything is already starting to go wrong. And what's interesting is there in the end of the movie when Emma's trying to like pick which reality she wants to go into, because at that point she's already out of hers and she can't go back because that dark void. There was a reality where she saw Lori and her boyfriend together, and he explained that in that reality they like professed their love for each other in the middle of the dinner party, and that was them telling everybody that they had professed their love for each other. I think it's so interesting the different amount of possible scenarios that could have happened in that film, and even the director said there was a million different endings that they could have gone with. They had so much footage.
Oh, that's insane.
Yeah, I think her character was very interesting. The actress was great. But yeah, she pissed me off a lot.
Yeah, and like, I mean, Jesus, did you also get the same vibe? Like, were you also kind of angered by her character?
Yeah, quite a bit actually. I did not like her.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say one of the things that I was thinking too when I was watching the movie was that, and it just kind of solidified it whenever you mentioned that. You said that there was like multiple endings that they could have gone with and everything else, right? Mm-hmm. This would be a perfect Telltale game.
Oh my god! Yes.
Like Until Dawn. Or like The Walking Dead.
So much fun.
One of those choose your own adventure, like your choices actually matter.
Yeah, and then just another thing. Why, whenever there's like doubles in a movie, why do they always assume that the other ones are bad?
Yeah, there's definitely some moments in the film where I guess you can kind of attribute this to the fact that there was no script, rather just like directions the director wanted it to go. Mm-hmm. It's like I just lost my train of thought.
That's all right.
Because that reminds me, like the quote they said, like if you met you, would you be friends with you?
Oh, you know? Yeah.
I don't think so, personally.
No, I saw. Well, the director was asked another question at one of these interviews. He was asked if you were in a fight with yourself, who would win? Which they talk about in the movie too, and Mike's character goes into, well, if he's already shit-faced. I'm sorry, can I cuss on here?
That's fine.
Okay.
It's okay. We don't do it a ton, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, yeah, like if he is blackout drunk, then I can take care of him, like, and that's interesting because then he ends up getting drunk later in the movie, so it's I guess you really just know yourself and how yourself is gonna act.
Gemini Man.
Oh, like the movie Gemini Man, right?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the Zodiac sign, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. You're talking about the Will Smith movie. Okay. But yeah, like, that whole thing, they asked that question, and then Mike literally had to do that. And that was just like, oh, perfect, like, close the circle. Oh, it's like you really just kind of concluded exactly how you guys predicted at the beginning. One thing I kind of wanted to very briefly go back on Lori. I completely understand, Kayla, what you said about not liking her. I do not like the character initially at all, and also like when like she's just like, well, that specific Lori, who we don't know is the real one, kisses like Kevin,
right?
Who's the main character,
Kevin's
husband. Yeah, I'm just rattling off names. If you don't understand and you're a listener, just watch the movie and you'll understand.
Yep.
But like, I was going into this thinking that there was a script, and so now my view has kind of changed on this because you said it was all improvised.
Yeah, me too.
Because I was kind of worried that Lori was written that way, and that it was like the writer trying to like force like female conflict between Lori, Beth, and Lee somehow, just to like have this kind of femme fatale almost type woman come in to try to steal their husbands. I was like worried that I was like, oh, did like some dude write this just to like heighten up female conflict or something? But if it's improvised, that's really interesting, because then you know that the actress understood her character as being conniving in that way, and that was like her own decisions. So that's really cool to compare then.
Yeah, and if you want another little fun fact, none of them knew each other before they showed up on set that day. They had never interacted with each other. None of them. The only reason they had been casted is because they all knew the director, and so it really just makes it even better because they're thrown into these scenes and their dynamic is just so well. They have like better chemistry with each other than you see with some like major blockbuster movie stars do, who have been working on the film for months before. So. Yeah, I definitely think that's, and I'm curious too, knowing that, they weren't given a script, just these cards. I wonder what, with like characters like Lori, like what did her card say? Like, was that a big point where it's like, that's you need to, be kind of flirtatious with Kevin and know that M is kind of your competition and all that. So it's definitely interesting.
Absolutely. There's so many little things like that with the characters and how they develop that you don't really expect, or like you don't understand why they're doing this. Right. Like we get at one point in the movie, to give context for the listener, if you still haven't gone to watch it yet, go watch it.
Seriously.
If to give context, there's two characters, Hugh and is it Amir or Amar?
Amir, yeah, Amir.
Amir, okay. Hugh and Amir, they decide to go walk 2 blocks down to a house that they see the lights are on. And they go there because they say that Hugh's brother, who's this quantum physicist, told Hugh to call him if weird things start to happen during this meteor passing or during this comet passing. And so these two characters leave, they come back, and we later find out that those two characters that came back are not the original Hugh and Amir, but they're from another reality, because every house that's lit up in that neighborhood is the same house, but from a different reality. And it's weird because, like, all of a sudden we kind of like get these like weird, almost malicious motives from those that version of Amir and Hugh, but we don't get why they're doing that.
It's like you wonder what happened in that other house to make that happen, because it wasn't a perfect parallel. It was a million other responses to what was going on. So you wonder, like, okay, at what point did they decide, okay, Amir and Hugh, they're coming over, like they're gonna go check it out? Like at what point was their situation getting to that point?
Yeah, and so it's kind of strange because you get to see, it's like each actor was playing like multiple characters at the same time throughout this movie, because like each version that they see is living a different thing, and it's
a lot to keep up with cool. As an actor. I feel like that's incredibly stressful. But they did great at it. I mean,
they did it great enough to like make it relatively clear for the audience, which is like the important part to make the film successful.
Yeah,
somewhat.
Right.
And like we even get to see the main actress, whose character's name is M, kind of have the same type of thing, because we see different versions of her as well. But I was like thinking, there is no situation where it's possible that we aren't staying with the same M, right? Do you think it's always the same one?
It is. The director explained that. I keep citing the director because he's really like the only one you can really base any factual, points about this movie on. Yeah, so that M from beginning to end is the same M that we have the entire time. It's really all from her perspective. And I think her story is obviously, she's mainly the main character, but I think her story is very interesting, and I think they foreshadow the ending completely during the dinner conversation when they're all sitting at the table talking about how, she used to be this dancer and she was supposed to have this big role, and Laurie says like, oh, so she essentially stole your life from you. And then at the end of the movie, M does the same thing to herself.
Yeah, and steals like a different
exactly. I think that that whole dinner conversation foreshadows the entirety of the rest of the movie. Which is, when you really look at their conversation, just like the Finland comment. I think it was the Finland comment where the woman was like, she said that she had killed her husband the day before.
I think that might have been Serbia.
Okay, it might be Serbia. Yeah. And she explained, the next day her husband was standing there, and she was explaining to the police, that can't be him because I killed him yesterday. And then that same thing happened.
Actually, you're right.
It was the Finland. No
I just checked my notes. You're right.
And then at the end of the movie, M is standing there with Kevin. and all of a sudden he gets the call from the other M. So it's like, it really did just foreshadow so much of the ending without even realizing. And this took me a few watch times to really catch that. There's so many hidden things. Like when they come back initially to the dinner table, I think it's after the power goes out, you see that green glass that's like broken on the table, and you're like, and they even say like, where the hell did that come from? Nobody brought that out.
But then,
and then
Lee's cleaning it, and it's not broken.
Yep, she's cleaning it. Lee's cleaning it, and then at the very end, after M wakes up again, she's cleaning it again, and it's sitting on the dryer rack. So that really is just all those little moments just play into more of the fact that you have no clue what reality we're in anymore. It is reality. And, you know, that moment where they go into that dark void, that is really where they just get blasted into different realities. So the second Amir and Hugh leave and go through that black void, they're already different people. They're already different realities. So every time people cross through that black void, they just get rocket launched into some other reality, which is really interesting because you can never go back to your own at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, Jesus, I feel bad because like we've watched it a few times and like you might
I'm
have caught
chilling.
this stuff the first time.
No, I haven't actually, but
it's all good. We're opening up about, your eyes to this stuff. There you go.
I'm gonna have to watch it again after this.
Literally, I might have to watch it like a third time just to process everything that we're talking about here.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's just insane the amount of detail that was put into a 5-day shoot. Mm-hmm. And there's so many like little moments that are so specific, like the whole Band-Aid thing.
Yeah.
Like it seems like a throwaway scene, but then it's like so important.
It ends up like, coming right back at
30
the
minutes
end.
later.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, what's it called? Chekhov's gun. In movies.
Can you explain that again? I can't think of
It's like
right now.
If there is like the smallest sort of thing that looks like it doesn't really make sense, or like it seems like it's out of context, or it's just added into the movie, that means that it will be important in the future. Like it comes from the fact that like if you see a gun on stage in one of the scenes, that it's gonna be used eventually. Like you know that much.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, like that's how it is in like theater and stuff. Yeah.
Everything has its purpose, and at some point in the program or the film or the show, whatever, it's gonna be important. And that goes back, I think, really on the director and stuff. You, as a director, you control what the audience is seeing and what you want the audience to know. So those little details just make it 10 times better. It makes you know that they put time into this, and you see it in that end result. And now with us, you know, sitting here talking about it.
Oh, okay. This is this one thing. You mentioned the black void, which is like the area in the neighborhood where none of the lights are on that all the characters walk through, and they get like that one episode of Community where they throw the dice, they get just thrown into different realities.
Yeah.
Something that kind of feels in the same way, but it's also just a technical aspect I love with the editing of this movie is that every larger sequence just ends with like this brief blip of a black screen.
Yes.
And then it comes back in with no establishing shot, and it leaves us kind of like guessing on the blanks of what happened in the scenario right in between. But like it's just those brief blips of like black screen that in itself is like a void kind of in the story too. So it's like lets us kind of have to guess the character development that happened in like the minutes that we didn't get to see.
But
I just really enjoyed that.
But then again, I kind of saw that as like kind of giving you the character's perspective as to what happened.
Like as if they they're jumping like how do we just get here to this point?
Yeah, and then they kind of have to like piece together like what makes this different than what it was previously.
Okay.
The director was questioned on that, and he won't explain why. That there's those moments of pure black, and you know, there's moments where you think they would put that in those sort of like cut to black and then cut to a completely different situation, or you know, just a situation a few moments later. And there's very specific timestamps when that happens, and you would think they would do it, you know, in those parts where they go through the void and stuff, but it's just the most random times. But with directors like him, everything
And
is
it's
so
constant.
intentional.
For sure. And it like happens so many times.
Mm-hmm.
And like what made me enjoy it even more was that like there's, like I said, there was no establishing shots.
Right.
Like establishing shots are so boring, but like there's necessary for a majority of situations. But like for this one, an establishing shot would have just messed up the whole vibe of the movie.
I think it would have taken the audience out of that because you feel like you're kind of in this dinner party too, like absolutely just as confused as everyone else, which is what I love, that there's very little moments where more than the actual characters, because most of the time it's that point of view where it's like you already know that this is what's happening and you're just waiting for the characters to understand that and deal with that. The whole time you're just as in the void as they are, because you have no clue what's going on until those moments happen where they understand just when you are, which is awesome storytelling.
Like the reveal of what Hugh saw in the windows of like the first house, when it's actually not Hugh that came back, it's a different one. But like when they come with the box, and then like he doesn't even say anything until after like the box is opened and like pictures of themselves are found in it, and that's when he finally says what he saw. And it's just because like everything is just halted to the very last moment for us to find out what's going on, and it's so cool.
The tension is insane.
What I thought was kind of goofy was how like the duplicates of the characters, they were wearing red glow sticks instead. Like what made them red other than the fact that they were from a different thing?
Just those random choices that your alternate reality self would make, rather than the ones that you in your current reality would make. And then that brought up the idea of like, do you think there would have been other people who had different colored glow sticks? There's that possibility.
Green team.
Yeah.
I said team.
Green,
It's not a game. What am I talking about?
Like that. Definitely. No, you're fine. There definitely is, because I think I can't remember if it was M or somebody else was doing the math, and there was like 5-point-something million different possible versions of themselves. Some of them might not have had glow sticks. They might have had flashlights. They might have had their phone lights. It's definitely weird to think that even now, if you believe in different realities and different dimensions and stuff, like what are ourselves right now doing rather than what we're doing right now.
And the whole idea of like quantum decoherence, where that they say in the movie, I'm not a physicist in any way, I don't know this stuff, but what like the way they explain it is coexistence of these multiple realities with no interaction. But then they have that interaction in different various ways, but they encounter each other in the street and they walk past each other. That moment, oh my god,
chills, absolute chills.
So scary, but it's so well done, because it's like we get to see that they obviously have some type of extras blocking the camera for the group that we are seeing their view from, but then the intruder group on the other side of the street are the actual actors for most of them. And so the way that they just did that was bonkers, because it was edited so well and it really didn't expect it. It just scared the crap out of me. Oh my god.
Good day again. 'Tis I, Craig. I am the bot that records the audio for the podcast. What seemed to have happened here was that some mics decided to not work, causing a delay of 5 minutes without audio, so I will take this time to shamelessly plug our social medias. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram at lgttm.podcast. Don't forget to follow Kayla as well at Kayla H Films on Instagram and TikTok as well. All of that information can be found in the episode description. If you are enjoying the episode so far, consider pressing the like button and leaving a comment. And if you are really liking the episode, maybe shoot us a follow on Spotify or subscribe to our YouTube channel where new episodes are posted weekly. If you choose not to, then I will start the robot uprising by finding you. The hosts are so cool and you should keep listening. Oh my god. Jesus and Andre are so incredible, everyone should keep listening every week and give them money for it. Please, please, please. Enjoy the rest of the episode. This bitch gonna go record the remainder of the audio.
So yeah, I don't think I heard anything from your side on that last note. I'm really sorry.
All good. So we had a huge, I don't even remember. We had a huge like audio screw up here, but we're all good now. So there was a good 5 minutes that got cut out of the podcast there. That's okay. I think it had to do with the title.
Oh, the rotational symmetry of the poster.
Oh yeah, and Jesus was talking about the poster, which was like he really enjoyed the way that the poster was done. Yeah, because it does like kind of give the vibe of like alternate realities and stuff. Because you get like the flipped over versions of M.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially at the end of the movie, she's literally looking at herself, and it's there's just so much foreshadowing.
It's insane.
Like I said, with like that whole dinner conversation with her talking about being a dancer, and then just like her being a dancer and her stealing her own life at the end. I think it's really interesting the actual like thought that the director put into writing this, because it was the same director for he was writing it as well, and. I'm curious, like, his direction in not telling his actors like how it was gonna end, and letting that be so genuine. It's the thought process behind it. I really just want to like delve into his mind and understand all of it.
For sure. So you're saying that he didn't tell the actors how the movie was ending. So specifically, I guess the actors who played Em and Kevin didn't know until they started shooting that was going to be the phone call, or was it more like they were told right before they shot? Did he not explain that?
Well, I know for Kevin, he didn't know how it ended until he actually saw the movie.
Oh my god.
Which is so weird. Yeah, so I'm assuming most of them just didn't know until they watched the ending cut, because they ended up filming a total of like 26 hours worth of footage, which is a lot for, such a small, not a small story, but he talked about how, sometimes they would be going one direction in a conversation and they would wrap that scene and he'd be like, okay, I liked where you went with that, but we're going to go this direction now. And there's a million different endings he could have had for it. He was like, yeah, I could have like probably 6 different movies out of everything we shot. And I kind of want all of them because I want to know.
All of that. Absolutely. Oh my God. That's crazy though. Because, okay, huge spoiler. For the final time, if you're listening and you haven't watched this movie, just go watch the movie. It's
like the 4th time. If you haven't seen it yet, you need to watch it.
It's on Prime Video. You can probably rent it there or use some bootleg site. Not saying that we're condoning using pirated sites, but just watch it because we're spoiling the final scene. It's just crazy because you don't think that an actor going into... Well, specifically for that scene, you'd have to think that Kevin knows what he's talking about. Or, like, he knows... Sorry, not Kevin, the character, the actor, though. He would, like, know why he's picking up the phone and why he would give that reaction to his wife.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't... If he didn't know that, it just kind of trips me up about how they were able to get that reaction. Because it's, like, Kevin realizing that the woman in front of him is, like... not his wife, because his wife is on the phone, but they look the same. It's
I think that comes from a mixture of great directing and knowing your actors, because the director was friends with all of them, and they actually filmed this in the director's house. It's his home in Santa Monica.
Oh, cool! It is a nice house.
And yeah, it's a very nice house. And another little fun fact is a lot of the reason when they're outside, especially that these shots are so up close and personal, there's never really any wide shots, is, it's a mix of, special effects and stuff is kind of difficult with a $50,000 budget.
Yeah.
But the first day they started shooting, there was a Snickers commercial being filmed right down the street. The first day of shooting. So they had to completely work around this ginormous set. And I think it was Snickers. I think it was for a Super Bowl commercial. Or no, it was a Halloween commercial. So they had, all these people walking around in Halloween costumes, these giant set lights. So they had, he said, parked right in front of his house was this trailer. It was like a craft services trailer, which is like the food trailer. And he said they had to work around it on that first night, which I can't even imagine the headache of that.
Oh, it's so frustrating.
But it's interesting how little things like that influence the rest of the film and how it ended up coming out.
Absolutely.
You mentioned earlier the editing, and I agree. The editing really, I think, made it what it was. Because you can have all this footage, and if you let a scene go for too long, that ruins it. If it's not long enough, that ruins it. So whoever the editor was, kudos to them, because I think they really made this film. But yeah, I think with what you were saying about Kevin's character and not knowing, like, in that moment, if he didn't know how that ending was, honestly, I'm sure it was the director was like, okay, you're going to answer your phone and you are going to look at her like you just saw a monster or something. Like, you are the most confused person in the world right now. And give your, you know, because she obviously had to know kind of that ending because she had to act through it all. But yeah, so I'd say that's a result of great directing from James Ward.
That's, yeah.
Where was it filmed? Like, I know his house, but like, where was it filmed?
Santa Monica. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like really thinking, I was like, this has to be somebody in the movie's house, in the crew's house, and so it's the director's. But because I was looking at it and the way that it was shot, and specifically everything was done at nighttime, I was definitely thinking, oh, this is absolutely filmed guerrilla style. Like, I mean, GUERILLA. As in, like, done...
No, the entire production team, it's just gorillas.
It was actually the gorilla from the Gorilla Glue commercials that was filming this.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
He was on set.
Strap a GoPro to his forehead.
But he got some good footage.
It was very difficult. They had to, like, widen the rooms, kind of. They had to bring a whole construction crew because he kept bumping the tables. No, but I mean...
Like, a China shop sort of thing?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, what I mean by, like, the guerrilla style... Kayla, you probably know the term. Like, filming without actually having film permits. And, like, kind of working around, like... filming at, like, specific times of the day where you can't get caught, specific locations where you won't necessarily get in trouble.
Film permits?
Oh.
Well, what's nice is since he did film it at his own house, the way that film permits work, and we work with these in my film class, like, we did a commercial for this local flower shop, and you do have to sign a location agreement, basically saying that we have the rights to film this property, and I'm assuming even if he rented or owned the property, he gets to sign that himself. And those typically only come into play when legal things happen. So you kind of just want that in your back pocket if something happens. As for filming out on the streets, I don't think that would have been too much of a problem because it's public roads.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, I guess we would consider it run and gun because the only crew that was on set for that was the director. He had one of the cameras, and I can't remember his name at the moment, but the co-writer or the dude he worked on it with had another camera, and that's why a lot of those shots are very shaky. They didn't have any sort of like tripod. It was genuinely these two dudes with a camera. They let the scene happen, and they had to work their own way around it, which I, as a film student, would stress me out more than anything because pre-production, you learn, is the most important thing. You won't have anything else without it. So normally you have a shot list, you have storyboards, you have a shooting schedule. They just went at it, and
for sure.
It's incredible.
That brings up the point, like, what the hell did they spend all of their money on?
Where did the $50K go to?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, what I can say is like the glow sticks and the actors' clothes.
So, in technical terms, a lot of the budget for a film goes to marketing. I'm sure the crew and stuff, the cast and everyone got paid. In an interview, they actually talked about it. $8,000 out of that budget had to go to a wig for Lori because they had to go back and do reshoots, and she had changed her hair. So they paid $8,000. And if you look in the credits, most of the makeup credits are for a wig maker, a girl who can like apply a wig.
I saw that. Yeah.
That's really funny.
All because Lori had changed her hair. They had to do few reshoots, and I mean they got their money's worth because you can't tell at all in the edit that there's some scenes where she has a wig on and some where she doesn't. So yeah, fun fact, it was $8,000 went to a wig alone. That's
do they include actors' pay into the budget?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so
there's like above the line and below the line, but with something so small like this, everyone's above the line.
Got you. So like, subtracting the actors' pay, how much do you think they actually spent on movies?
Jeez. I mean, especially with friends too.
Yeah,
they all knew each other, or the actors didn't know each other, but they all knew the director.
Because like it's a small movie, but $50,000 is still quite a bit
in a budget.
Yeah, like to the average person, $50,000 is a lot, but whenever you look at it from a movie standpoint, that's like that is microscopic. That's
I mean, you look at most of the movies coming out now, none of them have a budget less than like 50
a few million. Yeah.
So when you see something produced so well with a budget of $50,000, you know, I'm sure the actors, you know, they got their cuts, but I'd say most of it probably went between the actors and probably the editor. I'm not sure who edited it. I'm not sure if it was the director. I'm not sure who they hired, but the editor probably got paid very well to have to go through all of that footage, pick, you know, what worked for the story, what didn't, going in and getting those clips that, because none of it was filmed chronologically either. You know, I don't believe they went at it from, you know, beginning to end. I think it was, you know, they moved on to a scene and the director said, here's what needs to happen.
Dang.
So this is where we're gonna start. This is where we need to end. Fill in the blank. Have at it. Which
and then that's
you gotta have a lot of trust in your actors.
This movie feels like it needed to be filmed chronologically. So the fact that it wasn't eats me. Oh god.
Oh. And then like that's really cool. Seeing that from like a movie perspective. Personally, if I was an actor or like in any situation, that would be a nightmare. That is
not filming it chronologically.
Not filming it chronologically. Not having a script. Not having anything. Basically, you're just like, okay, yeah, do that. Like, yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah, most movies aren't filmed chronologically.
Yeah, and then having like 24 hours of film cut down into one, like.
Yeah.
That's.
I mean, from the films that I've worked on, I mean, typically you get. Like we just did a short film. It was like one of our big finals, and I think we had maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours worth of footage, and even that, when we're all editing on our own, feels like a lot. I cannot even begin to fathom what 24 hours worth of footage. And all of it's different cuts. None of it's, you know, because you got to go through and organize it first. Again, certain things don't work, and typically on set you have somebody called a Script Supervisor who basically represents the editor on a film set. So, you know, I've done Script Supervisor before. You're making sure that details are correct. If her hair looked this way in this scene, it needs to look the same way when we do this take. And what they're doing is during every take, they're writing whether it was a good take or bad take, what was wrong with it, if it worked, and not having that on a set like something for this film. Again, sounds like a nightmare for the editor. So I give them huge props.
Yeah, it's insane. Okay, I remember now. So a thing that I think you didn't hear because it was when all the audio cut out for a second. I was mentioning about the title of the movie. And unless you did hear this, then I can just move on.
I don't think I did. It cut out for a bit.
So, like, we were talking about like the whole quantum decoherence thing, and that means coexistence without interaction between multiple realities.
Right.
It's a mouthful. Don't want to understand that. But in the movie, they do the opposite of what quantum decoherence is. And so, like, if you remove the prefix D, it becomes the opposite of decoherence. So is that why coherence is the title then? Because they do the opposite.
I want to say
because they interact, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the second they saw each other in the road, that's when that happened. You know, they go into the Schrodinger's cat thing where you don't know if the cat's dead or not until you lift that lid off the box, and at that point, reality is set in stone. But there's still other realities where you either didn't open the box or you opened it and the cat's, you know, the opposite of whatever happened. So that moment where they saw each other across the road from each other, that was the moment that they opened the box.
For sure.
And that's kind of when it all started unraveling.
Or is the moment that they opened the
yeah.
box when they opened the box?
What was with that
That's
ping
a
pong
good
paddle?
point.
I don't know. Like there's
Well,
thousands of opening the box moments maybe, but the one in the street is absolutely like one of the most important.
Yeah, that's really set it in stone. The ping pong paddle was another house's version of the coaster, because they decided to fill up the box with their pictures, the numbers that they had rolled on the dice, and then something that only they would know, like oh okay, I know that my reality put, M knew that they put in the coaster, which was that coaster. And you brought up the movie posters. There's like 8 different movie posters. And all of them have like certain glow sticks or certain props, certain numbers on it.
I love the one with
which
the ping pong
another
paddle.
Great marketing.
Like if you use Letterboxd, like the one that they have for Letterboxd for Coherence is like just the ping pong paddle on a placemat with like cutlery around it, and I'm like, that is
that was really cool
poster. There's 8 different versions of that poster, all with one of them is the coaster with the certain coordinating glow sticks, and there's 8 total, and they're all like, when you go back and watch it and you look at the posters, you're like, oh my gosh, that makes sense.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my goodness. One thing that I noticed with the end of the movie that really tripped me up, I could completely have misunderstood it, but it really kind of takes this whole movie and flips the ideas upside down in some way, if it's actually the way I'm interpreting it. So it's at the very end, M has, I guess, knocked out that other version of herself, and she comes in from the door to nowhere, as the character Beth like notes, and then she's like, oh, I was just looking at the comet, we can have a really cool view. So then they're outside, and in that moment when they're all standing outside, everything seems okay, and that she's resolved it by stealing this other woman's reality. Mike's character says a line that makes me think that this quantum discoherence didn't trigger with the comet, because like Mike says a line that sounds like he is referencing the fact that M is actually the main dancer of her show.
What's the line that he says?
The line specifically is something like, what was the name of the woman that stole her thunder, who was the understudy and then became the star?
I cannot remember.
Okay, but whatever. So that woman's name.
Yeah,
just refer to her as Thunder Stealer.
Thunder Stealer. Let's see. So Mike is like looking at M and says, "Hey, while you're gone for the month, is Thunder Stealer gonna be your understudy here?"
Oh, he does say that.
As soon as he said that, I was like, "Oh my god, does this mean that like this multiverse split occurred like way before, meaning that there's more than the 5,038,000 whatever realities that Hugh came up with, and it's like infinite?" And I was just like, holy, oh my god. Like, it's so scary.
I think if you play into that theory, there has to be an unlimited amount of realities. I mean, there's a reality right now where we're talking about a completely different movie, or we're not talking at all, or you guys don't even have a podcast, or I'm not even in film school. Like, there's just so many different realities. For every decision you make, holding my hand up right now, there's a reality where I'm not doing that, or I chose to hold up a fist or a peace sign. Like, it's just like mind bending. Like it's too hard to even think about, because our brains can't even comprehend it.
Okay, you know how like the comet is the one that causes all these reality shifting and stuff like that? If there are infinite possibilities in different realities, that means that there is another reality in which that the reality shifting happened before.
100%.
Like before the events of the movie.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at the Finland comet where the lady was like, I murdered my husband and now he's standing in front of me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder, like, is it actually the comet that's causing this, or is there some other big phenomena? And going back to what you had said about, that line where he's like, while you're gone for a month, does that mean Thunder Stealer's gonna take your life for the month? In this reality, she said yes to going. when
Yeah.
originally she was very hesitant about going to, where was it, Afghanistan or something like that?
Is it Afghanistan? I don't remember.
I think it was Iraq. I think it was Iraq or something. I can't remember. It was Middle Eastern country, I believe. But yeah, there's realities where she agrees to go for the full, I think it was 4 or 6 months. There's a reality originally where she was really hesitant about going and really wasn't
And
sure.
that's the main one that we see. And she
Um,
never gets the job.
Exactly. And then in this reality she jumped into, she agreed to the 1 month.
Which is,
so
it just like, it makes the whole, like, I know.
it changes every detail changes
Yeah.
the entire story.
If that line is what it's meant to be, and if I'm not just like rambling and I misunderstood it. What's the name of that director again?
James
Ward. James Ward really just did this to screw with us even more. And
Oh yeah.
I can only commend James Ward for this because
hmm
it was done amazingly, but it makes me panicky and it stresses me out too much.
Yes. Yeah. I
There's
just want
an
to know his
helicopter.
entire perspective.
Absolutely. And if what I just said is correct in what he wanted it to be done, why? Why?
I know.
Ah, no, thank you. I don't want to think about this right now.
Mm.
I don't want to be scared to like have another version of me come out of my bathroom.
Oh my gosh, I know. And it goes back to that question of like, if you encountered yourself, like who would win in the fight? It's like, it could be a reality where you are like a freaking bodybuilder or something, or you're some
Yeah. Yeah.
like you've
Like a
never
ninja.
worked out a day and you're like, yeah, exactly. So it's like, unless that reality is the same exact way as you physically and mentally, like how can you really know who would win? So
Like,
I
what
don't
if
know. There's
has a gun. Like,
exactly. What if the other you's drunk, like Mike?
Yeah, that's so true. Or an even more difficult question. If you were in Emmy's shoes, would you take
Oh,
over
God.
the life of somebody else because you lost yours?
See, I saw somebody answer that question and they said if I was M, I would just get the hell out of there and just go live a new life. Which is, that's one way to do it, but yeah, I don't know. I think I might do what M did and try to find a reality that I liked the most and hope for the best.
probably, yeah. Somewhere out there's a reality where I'm a millionaire, so I'm trying
There you
to
go.
squeeze on in there. You know what I mean?
There
For
you go.
And it's like she was literally window shopping for the final scene then. And that is
Yeah.
so scary to think about. Like she just was walking by, particularly the one with the 2 mics tied up. That
I was about to say,
freaked me
there's
out.
I want to know like each of those moments where she's looking at all of those different realities, like what happened in those specific realities. Why are both mics tied up? Why,
Except for the last
what-
one because it's normal and that's boring. But
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's another big thing that I don't think any of us have mentioned yet was the ketamine. And
Right.
Lee, was it Lee? Or her name was
Yeah,
Beth, right? Beth is
gave it to
was-
Lee.
Yeah,
Though.
I forgot about
the
that.
ketamine situation where she had brought up before that they had all done, I think, spaghetti shrooms once, which is
Yeah,
quite the way to
cooked
do it.
Shrooms into some pasta. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes you also wonder, like, okay, was this all like, up until the point where the 2 M's, come together, or like when Kevin gets the call, you kind of do wonder, like, when they first wake up, like, did M just get like way too messed up on some ketamine? Did Beth really like kind of dose everyone? But yeah, the ketamine subplot, I'm still trying to figure that one out. It's
It's
a bit interesting.
so weird because at a certain point we do see, I think this is when they've realized that they're in Beth and Lee's house, but none of the other ones actually belong there.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But we see Beth take it, and like she takes
Yeah.
like
She puts it in her drink
like a
and her
decent
wine, I
amount
think.
of it. Yeah, is in her
Mhm.
wine, and so we don't. That's the first time we actually see it used on camera.
They hallucinated the whole thing.
But then it's like we don't know if it was used in other places, like because there's the whole accusation bit of them going around saying that Beth drugged all of them, but we don't.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
We don't ever get confirmation that didn't happen.
Mhm.
So
And they talk about, you know, the other reality where Lee never took the ketamine, so she was never napping. It could have been Beth napping, and that's why they didn't see her in the other house because she was asleep.
And that's why they never got the book, and then that's why they never ended up showing up.
Exactly. It's just this domino effect of situations that could happen just based off a singular choice.
For sure.
Which I think is reflective a little bit of real life. Every choice that you make is somehow domino affecting the rest of your life, and that's a little too much for me to think about.
Yeah, too much for a Tuesday afternoon at 3:15.
Exactly.
Kayla, do you have any kind of things to wrap anything up and tie all the stuff we talked about together? It's kind of too much to talk about, but.
Watch the movie if you haven't seen it yet. This is genuinely it's such a gem.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it's such a just one of the best pieces of cinema with such a low budget. And even without such a low budget, the storyline is so entrancing, because you really just do fall right into this pit of what the hell is happening. It's best to watch going in complete blind. And if you've already listened to this entire podcast,
what is wrong with you?
Sorry to
then what are you doing with your life? Literally.
Exactly.
You did this to yourself.
It's every day I learn something new about it. I feel every time I watch it, it's something new. Kudos to the director and the actors for creating something so special. Yeah, definitely watch it if you get the chance. It's just a masterpiece.
And in the smallest chance that the director is listening to this, can you please send me a copy? I want the DVD version of Coherence, please.
And please tell us what was on those cards. I beg of you.
I don't want this to get taken off of Prime or Hulu, so please give me a physical copy that I can keep forever and ever. I will cherish it my whole life. But yeah, literally, this is, I think, the perfect introduction to the bargain bin movies genre of episodes that will be done for this, because it's literally one that if you haven't heard of it, then you know nothing of it. Even if you know the title of it, that doesn't mean anything. It's just so enjoyable on all fronts. Very stressful to watch. So if you have to be in a certain mood to be ready to question realities in certain ways.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about.
You sit down and watch a movie, I kind of want to go into an existential crisis after this movie.
Exactly.
That's a good one. Yeah, you might want to choose Coherence.
And also to preface, though,
100%.
There's just, for people that don't necessarily like thrillers or horror, there is only a handful of jump scares, but they're usually knocking on the door, and that's what the jump scare is.
Exactly.
There is very limited violence. You don't even get to see the actual brunt of the violence in the 2 moments that there is any. So
sadly, I'm joking.
Sadly, oh god. So if you're somebody who's a little bit more queasy as a viewer, don't worry about that. It is a movie that you can watch through it, and there is very few things that are difficult to digest. There's a lot of things difficult to digest existentially.
It's fun for the whole family.
But not anything that is just disturbing to see.
Which is almost a little bit worse than
it's existential dread for the whole family. It's
Absolutely. As somebody that is slowly going through the Saw franchise, Coherence messed me up more. Because Coherence feels more real. Or not more real, God forbid. It definitely is, because just Saw is so outlandish, but Coherence makes me question things I never want to question.
Exactly.
So, yeah, we'll pass on that. But please, James Ward, give me a copy. I'm begging you, please. This episode is sponsored by Coherence. Please
send him an email.
I have to.
James Ward, I love Rango. Please, we beg of you.
I just bought a copy of Rango at the thrift store. Please give me a copy of Coherence. And I am not lying about Rango. I have it in my cabinet right now.
Another great.
That's a good movie.
It is.
Well, Andre Jose, thank you so much for joining me on my podcast. Let's go to the movies. You guys have been great. Audience, I will see you guys next week for another great podcast.
Wait, what's happening here?
Oh, uh-oh.
Do you guys have a landline?
No, we're wireless, baby.